Let's do some politics. The opposition NDC has described as embarrassing, shameful and insulting justifications by senior Minister Yao Osafo-Maafo for government's decision to let Chinese galamsey Kimping in one, also known as Aisha 1, off the hook. According to the party, the senior minister's subsequent clarifications on the matter means government has lost the fight against the menace, which has ravaged water bodies and forest reserves in many parts of the country. Communications Director of the NDC, Sami Jemfi, at the party's Moment of Truth series today said Ghana has traded its laws and resources for a Sino-Hydro deal which cast a slur on Ghana's sovereignty. We can go live to the NDC headquarters where my colleague Komla Adom is on standby for us. Hello, Komla. Komla, if you can hear me, tell us what demands is the NDC making? Is the party making any demands on government?
Hi, Gifty.
Yes, Komla, go ahead.
All right, Gifty. Essentially, the NDC is asking that the government overhauls the inter-ministerial committee on illegal mining. We know that the executive secretary of that committee, Mr. Charles Bisu, has been embroiled in some, controversy. It should begin immediate prosecution of some of these staffers who have been caught on tape receiving these bribes, specifically Charles Bisu and then Andy Owusu, who also was caught up in that Anas documentary. So those are the very key demands they are making on government as we speak. They also, specific regards to the Osafo-Maafo justification of why the government decided to discontinue the prosecution of Chinese Kimping Aisha Wang. They say essentially Mr. Osafo-Maafo was communicating the position of government, and so there's no need for him to resign or render an apology, for instance. So they say that is the position of the Akufo-Addo government, and since then there's been no official government position to contradict what Mr. Osafo-Maafo had said in that town hall meeting. I'm joined by Communications Director of the NDC, Sami Jemfi. He addressed this press conference today. He will shed a lot more light on this for us. Thank you very much, Mr. Jemfi, for your time. Now, you say specifically that you do not want Mr. Osafo-Maafo to resign. So what then, apart from the demands you're making, are you asking of government specifically?
I think that we're clear in our press statements that government must overhaul the inter-ministerial committee against illegal mining, because clearly the evidence shows that that committee is now an active vehicle which is promoting and facilitating the illegal menace. And we cannot continue to expend the scarce resources of state on such a venture. Already, millions of taxpayers' money have been spent on this committee. And yet, the reality on the ground shows that our environment is being depleted even more now. Water bodies, forest reserves are being destroyed. And these people who we entrusted the responsibility of dealing with this canker of illegal mining have rather turned around through corrupt means to line their pockets, and to undermine the very fight they were supposed to champion. And so it is untenable for us to continue to spend the scarce resources of state on such a venture. Government must immediately overhaul the committee and review the approach they have so far, taken in this fight. But not just that, we have also made the point that President Akufo-Addo must rise above his sweet but hollow rhetorics and must begin to walk the talk now. Enough of the sweet soundbites. We must begin to show genuine political commitment on his part, that indeed he means he means it when he says that he will not countenance, Galamsey. The Galamsey fraud documentary of ACE investigative journalist Anazare Miyawanas comes to mind readily. And in that documentary, we have audio-visual evidence, showing the executive secretary of the inter-ministerial committee against illegal mining, Mr. Charles Bissiu, and another accomplice of his, Mr. Andy Owusu, who is the special assistant of the Ashanti Regional MPP chairman, Chairman Wuntumi, demanding bribes, taking bribes, abusing their office, and abusing their fiduciary responsibilities to the people of this country. They were actually captured on tape, facilitating and promoting the activities of illegal miners. And so that is a locus classicus if you want to look at the governmental complicity in the menace of illegal mining. And the president must ensure that these people face the full rigors of the law.
And you don't think that process has begun yet, because we know Mr. Bissiu has stepped aside from his position as the executive secretary of this committee, and then some investigations of sorts is ongoing.
If I steal money from the states and step aside to enjoy my loot, what have I done? That is actually positive for him. You understand? Because he hasn't refunded the bribes he took. He hasn't been held before any investigative, body that we are aware of. He's not facing prosecution, and so on. What he did was was criminal, and as a result, he must be arraigned before a court of competent jurisdiction and prosecuted for that crime. For a court of competent jurisdiction to pronounce on that, his decision to step aside is not sufficient remedy for the crimes we saw him perpetrating in that video documentary. You see, and not just that, we're in this country a few months ago when no less a person than the Minister of Local Government, Honorable Hajia Alima Mahama, told us that certain MMDCs in the Akufo-Addo government were engaged in Galamsey. The lady assured us that because government takes a dim view and a strong view at what these MMDs were doing, she was going to name and shame, and government was actually going to sanction these MMDCs. My brother, since the local government minister said that, nobody has been named, nobody has been shamed, nobody has been sanctioned, nobody has been sacked, nobody is standing prosecution. So where lies the commitment of President Akufo-Addo and his government to the fight against, corruption and Galamsey? Also, we're in this country when the former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Honorable Peter Ambewu, told us that certain soldiers were protecting illegal miners, merely foreign illegal miners. We're also in this country when the Eastern Regional Minister, Honorable Charles Dafo, confirmed this assertion and stated publicly that members of Operation Vanguard, a task force which was constituted by the president to, fight this canker, he told us that they were actually protecting illegal miners, merely foreigners. And to date, we don't know what has come out of that. Nobody has been sanctioned, nobody is standing prosecution. And the latest one, the chief executive officer of the Forestry Commission, Sir John, came out and told us a few weeks ago that he's tired of the fight and that all efforts to, deal with this canker is not working because certain higher ups in the Akufo-Addo government are undermining the fight, and that they're actually, facilitating legal mining activities of some of these, foreigners who are destroying our forest reserves and so on. So all these things point to the fact that the Akufo-Addo government is not committed to the fight against illegal. They are using it rather as an avenue to milk the state and to line their pockets. And that is why we are expressing outrage and disgust.
Okay, wrapping up for us briefly, I want you to give us what specifically you want to see done beyond the overhauling of the Inter-Ministerial Committee on Illegal Mining and then the prosecution of these individuals you have named.
You see, we do these moment of truth engagements so not only to expose the misgovernance and the maladministration going on, but we do that so that sufficient pressure can be brought to bear on President Akufo-Addo and his government for them to have a genuine change of both heart and mind. So our hope is that not only will the president overhaul the inter-ministerial committee against illegal mining, which has become an active vehicle for promoting galamsey, but he will also review his methodology and his approach and rededicate himself to this fight, because that for us is primary. But not just that, the prosecution of Charles Bisu and Andy Owusu for us is, something is unnegotiable. That must happen, and that must happen immediately to serve as a deterrent to others. But as for the disgraceful and insulting comments of Osafo Marfo, which exposes the inner thinking of the Akufo-Addo government, because as we explained, he communicated the mind and the position of President Akufo-Addo as far as the discontinuance of the criminal trial of Aisha Wuwine was concerned. We know that come 7th December, the people of this country will speak in very clear terms that our country is not for sale. And we will not tolerate any government that invites foreigners to come into our country, destroy our water bodies, destroy our environment in exchange for a pittance. We want a government which will have our interests at heart, which will stand by us, defend our laws, protect our water bodies and our environment for the sake of generations unborn. That is the kind of responsible leadership Ghanaians are looking for. Like the people of Tanzania, exemplified. The government of Tanzania exemplified a few months ago. That is the kind of government we want. And so it is for the people of this country to take a decision on President Akufo-Addo. Clearly now, all well-meaning Ghanaians are seeing President Akufo-Addo as a man who talks much, but delivers very little. Thank
you very much. You heard there, Sami Jemfi, he's the communications director of the NDC. Essentially, they want three things. One, the overhauling of the inter-ministerial committee on illegal mining. They also want the immediate prosecution of Charles Bisu and Owusu and many other staffers who they say are complicit in this galamsey activities. And also they say President Akufo-Addo must re-examine and review the government's fight against illegal mining. Those are the three things they touch on briefly. And generally they say that the fight against galamsey, as the president has touted all these years, has failed. So, back to you in studio. My name is Komla Adom from the NDC headquarters here in Accra.
Thank you very much, Komla Adom. Komla Adom there.